In today's episode of the Pathmark Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Liz Steward, and she's heading over from the folks over at Envisio. And we want to learn how basically Envisio helps you to align people, plans, and performance data for business performance. So today we want to really deep dive into that, and lucky to have Liz on the show with us today. So welcome.
Pleasure. Thanks, Lucas.
Of course. So maybe give people like a quick overview. What is Envisio all about in your own words?
Sure. So Envisio is a strategy and performance management software tool. That probably doesn't mean a lot for you, so I'm going to provide a little bit of context. So I'll start by saying that we're a B2B and B2G, so business to governments software company. All of our customers are publicly funded, publicly accountable organizations. And as I explain a little bit about what we do, it'll probably become clear as to why that's the case. So essentially what Envisio does is it allows these public sector organizations to take their plans, so big, complex organizational plans, maybe a strategic plan, something else, organize those plans, get visibility into what's happening with them, measure their progress and their performance, and then report out their results. So if you take a city government, for example, they'll have a lot of really big, complex plans. So it could be a community safety plan or a climate action plan, affordable housing, something like that. They can take that plan out of a spreadsheet or a PDF even sometimes, and they can cascade it down all the way from high-level goals all the way down to individual action items, assign it out to the right people, add performance measures. And so really they're getting visibility into exactly what's happening with that plan. And then they can build reports for their elected officials, so their mayor, their council members, and they can report out to their community, which is the piece that we get very excited about at Envisio. Report out directly to residents via public dashboards so they can actually see what's happening with the plan and how their taxpayers' money is being used.
Makes a whole lot of sense and brings a lot of transparency into those whole processes. Pretty cool. Now, you mentioned B2G there. Like, are we thinking cities? Are we municipalities, like counties? Like, who is that? Does it matter? Does it run the gamut? Is it like what types of organizations work with that platform?
It does run the gamut. So really any organization that is publicly funded, publicly accountable within local government, it's counties, it's cities, special districts. So it really does run the gamut. And then in those other markets, it will be like community colleges, school districts, some of the big research universities. So anyone that fits that definition could be an Envisio customer.
Very cool. Now, who would be sort of the champion within those organizations? Because I would say, maybe I'm being a little bit assumptive or running assumptions here, that they're not necessarily the fastest moving organizations all the time, right? So there probably needs to be a champion within that brings the technology into the place. Like, is that like a head of technology in those organizations? Is that like an operational lead, project managers? Who brings in Envisio?
That's a great question. It does vary a lot. And a lot of the time it depends on the size of the organization. So again, if we stay with local government for a minute, that's still the majority of our customer base. Typically the champion in smaller cities, smaller counties is going to be either the city manager themselves or the deputy city manager. In much bigger cities, so if you're thinking about, some of the huge North American cities, it'll often be a head of performance or a head of strategy and innovation. Sometimes it's the technology team, but not as commonly.
Gotcha. Very good. Now, what role would you say does your own website play in the buyer's journey? Like, what are the channels that you guys leveraging? And then maybe as a follow-up to this, what role does the website play?
Good question. So we're an interesting organization because our two primary go-to-market channels are organic search, which often surprises people when we talk about B2G. And then the other primary go-to-market channel for us is outbound. So we're pretty split half and half between those two channels. So the website obviously plays a huge piece in our growth strategy. We like to think we're pretty good at search. And it's an area of huge growth for us this year. So we brought on a number of new content writers. So we're really good at bringing people to our website. We have around 15,000 unique visitors per month. And where we're looking to really improve is the conversion rate of those visitors. So very much what you were talking about at the beginning. So we
That
do
makes sense.
lose a lot of people once they arrive at the website. So that's a big focus for us.
Makes sense. I mean, can you tell me a little bit what you as a marketer, maybe not with this side, but just in general, have learned about driving conversions? Like, is there any methods, approaches, tools that stick with you over the years that you found helpful in that regard?
I think there's a few things. So I'm a big believer in content is king. So first of all, getting people to convert, write great content. Content that gets people to stay and read and then leads them on to something that turns them from an unknown visitor into a known visitor. So content marketing 101. So that is definitely one. We are not super sophisticated in the technology that we use on our website. So most of our growth has come from that strategy. So really good keyword research, really good content creation. We have a mantra in my team that we never write fluff. We'll always try and add value to a conversation. And then good customer journeys through the website. That's really critical for us. Understanding how our customers arrive at the site and then where they go afterwards and leading them ultimately to somewhere where they'll convert into a known visitor for us. And then that can either be a demo request, so a really highly qualified lead, or we send them off to our outbound team and they will then follow up. So that's where the interplay between the inbound and the outbound works really well for us.
Makes sense. Very cool. Now, if we're switching gears slightly, I would love to talk with you a little bit more about your journey as a marketer, right? The first thing that I'm curious about is, with all the content out there that marketers could read and consume all day long, you could be busy for the next 100 years, I guess, even more. So where do you find high quality marketing content for you? What's your filter with all of the noise out there? Any peer groups, podcasts, blogs, something that you find actually helpful?
I read a lot. So for me, a lot of books. So I'm pretty old school. So I read a lot of the classic authors. So a lot of Seth Godin. All of my career has been like this. So I have no formal training as a marketer. I went to law school, but I had the wisdom to go to and have a gap year before I went to law school. And during that time, I ended up at a small technology startup. I loved it. I gravitated towards marketing. And then when I finished my law degree, I decided that's actually ultimately what I wanted to do. And from that moment on, I just read and read and read. So not just marketing books, but a lot of productivity books, a lot of leadership books. So my bookshelf at home is just packed with different authors.
Very good.
So, and then good personal networks is the other thing.
Very cool. I mean, it's actually quite fitting into my next questions. I got some rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
I'm ready.
So the first one would be, what's the last book that you actually read?
The last one, Creativity Inc.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
We are focused on changing our marketing automation tools.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing that you would want to fix for your company today? You have a magic wand. What's the one thing for your role as a marketer? What would you fix?
Website conversions, which is going to be music to your ears, Lucas.
Well, what's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
A great question. Attribution.
Attribution. That's very interesting because that comes up a lot on the podcast. Like, what is it that you feel is missing for attribution?
It's such a difficult topic. It's so hard to get it right. So I think that the tools are not as sophisticated as they can be. And then I think the broader understanding of the buyer journey across other functions is not that well understood either.
What is, for the very last question, if today would be your first day joining Envisio, what's the one advice you would give yourself for that journey?
Go slow to go fast.
That's actually a very good one, to be honest.
Get the foundations right for growth.
Yep. So, yeah, no, I really appreciate you joining us today on the show. Liz, if people would be forgetting all that we discussed, what's the one single thing that they should remember about Envisio?
That we are building trusted public agencies, trust and transparency.
Very good. Thanks a lot for being a guest on Passung Presents. I want to give you basically just a big thanks for having joined, and I hope you had a bit of fun as well. So thanks for joining the show.
Thanks, Lucas.